Finally, it happened. My mother gave birth to a boy. He was beautiful, delicate, and adored. We, his sisters, cherished him, showering him with love, delighted to finally have a baby brother. But soon, everything changed. My mother changed. Having given birth to a son, she seemed to transform overnight. A woman who once lived modestly now draped herself in arrogance. She flaunted branded skincare products, expensive clothes, and gold jewelry, as if proving something to the world. For us, her daughters, she spared nothing but the scraps. Secondhand clothes from thrift stores, some decent, but most a source of humiliation. Other children taunted us for wearing used garments, making us feel the shame our mother never did. But it wasn't just about the clothes. My mother believed our existence was solely to serve. Dishes had to be washed, carpets scrubbed, and any delay in these endless chores became an excuse for her to complain to my father. She would whisper in his ear, fueling his anger, encouraging him to punish us. Almost every night, I buried myself under a thin blanket, my body aching from the blows, my heart heavy with silent tears. 2 years later, she gave birth again. Another boy, but this one, unlike the first, was born with a cleft palate. My mother was horrified, disgusted. She rejected him outright, as if his small deformity erased his worth. She never cradled him in her arms, never fed him, never cared. That burden fell to us, his sisters. We became his unseen, unthanked caretakers, while she grew colder, crueler. By the time I reached 10th grade, the world outside was just as harsh as the one inside our home. A revolution had begun, and war erupted between my country and its neighbor. Soldiers left, never to return. Almost every day there were funerals, wailing mothers, broken families. Food and essentials became scarce. Rations were handed out by coupons, each family receiving only what the government allotted. In that bitter winter, fuel was as precious as gold. We depended on kerosene heaters, but my mother, always scheming, sold most of our rationed oil on the black market. During the day, we had just enough warmth to survive, but by night, the fire died. We huddled under a single quilt, shivering. And yet, those nights were the rare moments of happiness in my life. My sisters and I whispered under the covers, sharing stories, laughing in the darkness. It was our secret world, untouched by my mother's cruelty. But she was relentless. Money obsessed her. While we starved, she counted coins, hoarded gold, paraded her jewelry before neighbors like trophies of her success. One morning, she woke me before dawn. My father had to leave early for work, and I was expected to prepare his breakfast, wash the dishes, and complete a list of chores before school. We went to school hungry. Our breakfast, a dry piece of bread with a sliver of cheese and weak tea. The humiliation never ended. My mother took it further. She locked the fridge. She hired a handyman to install a padlock, ensuring we couldn't take even a scrap of food. Our pocket money wasn't enough to buy so much as a snack, and from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., we endured school on empty stomachs. At 14, I knew only suffering. I was a maid, a ghost in my own home. My only escape was education. I poured myself into studying, clinging to the hope that knowledge would free me. But even that was a battle. There was no time to study during the day, so at night, I slipped into the basement, away from my mother's demands, away from the house that never felt like home. And that's where I found them. A faint sound in the darkness led me to a corner of the basement, where a small, frail mother cat was giving birth. One by one, tiny kittens emerged, their fragile bodies barely moving. It was magic, a miracle unfolding before my eyes. For the first time, I felt something warm inside me. Love. Purpose. No matter how cruel the world was, no matter how much I suffered, I had a mission now. I had to protect them. The mother cat was weak, so I saved tiny portions of my meals, scraps of meat, bits of cheese, and fed her in secret. Watching her eat from my hands filled me with pride, a joy so deep that nothing else mattered. Each day the kittens grew stronger, and after a week, the mother trusted me enough to bring them into the sunlight. They played, tumbling over each other, their tiny paws batting at invisible enemies. It was the purest happiness I had ever known. I felt a special connection to them. I couldn't know our bond was about to be disrupted. But happiness, in my world, never lasted. One day at school, a terrible feeling settled in my chest, a weight I couldn't explain. All day I was restless, my mind consumed with worry. As soon as the bell rang, I ran home, my heart pounding. The basement was empty. I searched every corner, every shadow. No kittens, no mother cat. Panic clawed at my throat. I turned to my sisters, desperate, but they lowered their eyes, silent. I already knew. When I finally demanded an answer, my mother's voice was sharp, mocking. "You're not a child anymore," she sneered. "It's time you stopped playing with kittens." Her words turned my blood cold. She told me, as if it were nothing, that she and my cousin had chased them down, caught them, stuffed them into sacks, and taken them far away. So far, they would never find their way home. Or maybe they didn't take them away at all. Maybe they killed them. I will never know. That night, I lay in bed, silent, frozen. The weight of grief was unbearable, a hollow ache that no tears could mend, but I couldn't cry. I didn't dare. If my mother saw, she would tell my father, and I would pay for my sorrow and bruises. So I swallowed it all. My sadness, my rage, my helplessness. But in my dreams, the truth surfaced. I fell endlessly into dark wells. My mother loomed over me, not a woman, but a monster, grinning as she tormented me. Night after night, I woke up breathless, my heart hammering in my chest, and I knew something had to change. There was no one to save me, not my sisters, not my teachers, not my relatives. If I wanted to escape this life of starvation, humiliation, and cruelty, I would have to save myself. I made a decision that night, and that decision would change everything.